Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show this morning. We're talking to Pastor Walker and Bishop Miller in reference to women involved in the ministry. And Pastor Walker, let's start off this segment by having you to give us some information in reference to the topic itself, okay. Women involved in ministry. And then we'll allow Bishop Miller to talk about his book and some of the things and reflect in a real sense upon females involved in the ministry.
Well, Dr. Haney, this is some subject matter that I can really relate to because I've been exposed to women in ministry ever since I was a child. My mother, she's a minister. She founded churches. She deceased back in 2014, Bishop Florian Knox. But she founded a church. The church still stands in existence right now. My brother pastors a Universal Christian Holiness Church. I grew up in that church. I experienced other ministers, women ministers, Bishop Sally Swift, Bishop Clara M. Roberts, all out of Indianapolis, Indiana, along with a lot of other female ministers over the years of my life. When I was out there on drugs and everything, that Pastor Evangelist Sheila Kaur, she, with the Servants of God non-denominational church, she would come out in the streets and she would minister to me. And that's when my mother planted the seed. She came along and she watered it. And it was during that period of time back in 1986 that God called me out of active drug addiction into the gospel ministry. And it was through the workings of these godly women and stuff that reached out to me and stuff like that and planted. As a matter of fact, in 1990 or 1992, I can't remember exactly now. But I was ordained. I was ordained in Indianapolis, Indiana, up under the pastorate of Bishop Clara M. Roberts up in Indianapolis. So I've had quite a bit of experience with women in ministry, and to be here with Dr. AMiller9 Sr. to talk about this, preach my sister, preach the biblical defense of women in the gospel ministry. I mean, and hear what I'm saying. The biblical, not his opinion, but the biblical defense for women in ministry. The reason he can take it to the Bible and show that. But that's my experience that I've had with women in ministry. So I'm one that you can't come to me and talk to me about what a woman cannot do, and you can't use the traditional stuff like God can cause a donkey. To me, that sounds disrespectful. You know, to speak, you ain't use whoever. But you know, the thing is this, and I commend Bishop Miller for him taking on the challenge to explore this subject, study this subject matter out, and then to present it to us in a book form in a way that we can all understand it. So I just yield to him.
Okay, very, very good. Bishop Miller, let's talk about women in ministry.
Yeah, you know, for most part, pastors and preachers, they use a text out of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, and they use 1 Timothy chapter 2 to say that women were not called, because Paul was addressing an issue, and he was saying that women are supposed to remain silent in the church. And then he said, I suffer a woman not to teach or usurp authority over a man. Okay, but at the same time, then First Corinthians chapter 11 says, a woman, if a man prays and prophesies with his head covered, he dishonor his head. Then it uses the same terminology that if a woman prays and prophesies with her head uncovered, she dishonor her head. So why would he use, if he didn't want women to preach, why would he use that same illustration? And so I think what was going on, as I share in the Bible, is that there was an issue that was going on in the book of Corinthians and in the congregation that he addressed in the book of Timothy, where he addressed that, because he really didn't mean for women not to preach, because there's too much in the Bible. There's too much illustration that shows, even from the Old Testament, if you would look at 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, where there was a woman